Our next talk is from a university in Switzerland, and Adrian and Michael will tell about how they migrated 130,000 Plone 5 objects to Volto. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome to our talk about how we migrated 130,000 Plone 5 objects to Volto. First things first, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Adrian Schulz. I'm working with Plone for about 10 years. And Michael Perret, he's working with Plone since 2023, right?
Yes.
Good. So, let's introduce our project. We both work, by the way, for the University of Applied Sciences and Arts in northwestern Switzerland, which is called FHNW, which is the German abbreviation. You know, Germans and long words. And in 2024, we started the project Web After 2025. And there we had two technical sub-projects, which were called CMS Upgrade. The CMS Upgrade lasted from January 2024 until April 2025, with the goal of a technical upgrade and making it future-proof as well. And then we had the CMS redesign, which is still going on. It started in May and is planned to be finished in February with the go live of the new design. And the migration we did was within the CMS Upgrade project because there was a huge difference between the old and the new system. So, some more general information. For the whole project, we worked together with Kit Concept, and it was up. Oh no! Oh no! Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, they were consulting and developing for us anyway, so we also needed their help for the migration because it was quite a big task. And we used collective.exportimport as a base for it and extended it later. We will look a bit at the code later in the presentation. Also, let's look at the systems. The original system was a Plone 5.2 with a lot of Plone Mosaic pages. And we had a lot of customizations there. As you're talking about Mosaic, we had about 20 or 30 custom tiles there. We had a lot of business logic, 5 custom packages, which were internal, custom workflows. So in general, customizations on every corner of the system, which makes migration quite difficult, I think. And we had this huge database. We had 600 gigabytes of data with roughly 130,000 objects or content items behind it. We will talk about the database later in the presentation too. And the new system. Let's look at it. We knew we will go with Plone 6 and Volto because the editors didn't like the editing experience with the Plone 5.2 and Mosaic. So Plone 6 and Volto was a great change there. Yeah. Let's look at the biggest challenges we faced. Well, the first one is quite obvious, I would say. We come from Mosaic tiles and we want Volto blocks. And something has to happen there because they were not compatible in any way. And we had to do it on ourselves, basically. Then the preview and the hero images, well, both were stored within the content object used, so on a single field, right? And now, at least, I think it is, yeah, it is. There's a new object or content item created, and we do a relation on this object. And the third challenge, new data model. As I said, we wanted to make our system future-proof. So we had to change a lot in our data model because the old one was historically grown. And yeah, for example, here we had this thing called educational products, basically, which we split up in the new system into degree programs, continuing educations, info events, and continuing education events. Yeah, you can imagine migrating this could be a bit hard. And there was another elephant in the room, right? We used a lot of easy forms, customized them as well, by the way, easy form. And well, easy form isn't a thing anymore with Volto. So we had to migrate these easy forms into pages and add a form block there instead. So enough of general information. Let's look at the migration process. So what did we do before the migration? Obviously, we had to implement the migration code ourselves. And there we had testing through editors exactly one time, 2.5 months before we did the actual migration. Yeah. Also, we had to do the investigation about this database because as Fred and I think Eriko as well said, hey, you have way too much data compared to the number of content items you have. We tried to investigate this. We already knew something was out there because, well, before all this project and so on had started, we saw that the database was just increasing in size and more and more and more. But, you know, as we're Swiss, we just threw money at it in terms of disk space. Yeah. And the investigation showed that we had a problem with history there. And I think it was also a bug in Plone iterate involved, but I'm not sure anymore, to be honest. In the end, purging the history, we had about 15 history items per content object. And we set it to 5, I think. Yeah. And then purging the history, obviously doing packing and vacuuming as well. And well, the whole database shrank to 230 gigabytes. Let's look at the migration pipeline. This is how we did the actual migration. On both systems, we had PostgreSQL, right? On the left, we have the old system. On the right, the new system. And first of all, we did a conversion to file storage here. Why did we do that? Well, as Fred recommended, we should use in step 3 the actual exporting of the data, the blob paths. So we can just copy over the blob store you have and use it during the import without any problems and without any cluttered JSON files with the base 64 strings you would have otherwise. Yeah. Then second step, the exporting of data needed a fresh catalog, right? So you find every object you need. Then the actual export of the data itself happened. And this is the place, step 4, where we could have done things differently by using a shared folder between these two systems, but we decided to just create tarballs, copying them over and extracting them. Steps 4, 5, and 6. And so now we had on our new system the blob store again and all the exported files. And then came the import, which was split up in the import all and the fix all. And I have to say, I know the exact date when we did that because, well, who doesn't love migrating databases on Valentine's Day, right?
Cute date idea.
Yeah, sure. So, after the migration, well, migration is always like that. You probably never get this 100% perfect migration, right? So, you need the editors to check what was migrated. And as you know, we had a lot of content items. They had a lot of work to do. And they had about 1.5 months checking everything, fixing everything, which was not that good. So we could go live in beginning of April. And some things even came up even later. I mean, just before going live, we saw that there's something wrong with the effective and expire state, which we had to fix. Luckily, this went quite well without any problems there. But even later, we found some of the content types were not mapped correctly. We had some specific content items of type document, which should be to this new content type project migrated. And well, I had to do it while being live with a script, but this as well was quite good. So let's look at the code. For the ones who already are familiar with migration, I think this is nothing new, but I just wanted to have this short introduction about collective export import, which basically provides export and import views for content, relations, and local roles and whatnot, right? And you get these JSON files out of it. And there you have these important methods within the import here in the example, global dict. So you can adjust the data before the actual object was created or serialized. And then the global object hook, which is basically after this happened. So, I thought it would not be a good idea to paste hundreds of lines of code here, right? So I made this collective package, collective export-import examples with the most basic, or most important code we wrote. And also I deleted all this huge company-related stuff, right? Because we had, in the end, we had our scripts for about thousands line of spaghetti code, and you don't want that in the examples, right? So we shrank it to the most relevant part here, right? Also, this package is not something you can run or anything, nothing to import it, just to look at the code. And if you have any questions regarding to this package or need maybe more examples which we could provide, just write an issue there. So, it all started with the export all, which just calls to the export views I mentioned before from collective export import. Interesting there was the custom export export content we implemented. Obviously, you always try to handle broken data in there. But the very interesting part is the Mosaic tile data extraction. We have done that with an iteration over the custom content layout, where we try to find every div with the data tile attribute. And well, then you have the most basic information. And depending on the tile type, there are different tile types. You handle them differently by taking tile point data, or for example, query the URI. And then obviously we have to translate everything to JSON basically. And what I didn't mention was the Plone standard type fields, because these are fields which are migrated by collective export import. Already you have the information, you don't need the styles. Then let's look at the import. Import all, again, those basically calls to these custom or the basic implementations of the collective export import views. here we have, well, the custom import content. Here is most logic, right? Because you don't want to adjust too much during the extract phase in the ETL. You want to do this during the transform phase or the import phase like we did it here. We also had some minor customizations in the relations and teeny tiny customizations to the other views because, well, as you saw in the visualization before, we imported directly into the PostgreSQL database. And as we had there the limits with the transaction sizes, well, we just did this in batching, right? And this was not implemented in collective export import. And beside all this I mentioned already, well, there's also disabling cache, catalog updates after calling all these views and link integrity updates going on. Then let's look at the fixal, the second step of the import. Here you do the adjustments to the imported object from the import all. We had there this company-specific case of the contact relations, which we added through deferred fields. Then we had the building of the navigation entries, because we had totally different navigation implementation to the normal Volto or Plone. And there's the big thing, migrate rich text to blocks. This does way more than the name suggests, I promise. Including also the calls to the blocks conversion tool. Then we had this custom migrate to Volto, and don't forget to migrate folders to documents with Plone 6, and resetting the dates, and well, you disable the versioning obviously in the beginning, so you re-enable it for the content types. Now, let's dive a bit more into the details. In the import all, we had the custom import content, right? Let's look at this, how we used our custom implementation. In the init, we just initialized global lists of pages which we have to adjust later, probably in the fix all. Then we have to start. There we disable the versioning, for example, and store the types where we disabled the versioning on the portal object as an annotation. And the finish. Here is this finish method was quite interesting because we did a lot of the preview and hero image logic in there, and prepare relations there and store them as well on the root object as annotations. This also used to create image object. Yeah. What else do I have to say? Well, obviously the global dict-hook, as said in all the examples, there you do the heavy transforming of data. Nothing too complex, I think, but just a lot of code. I think this method alone was about 600 or 700 lines. Yeah. And then the global object hook, we didn't need that too much. We stored some deferred data for later. Like, I think the tiles were stored there.
And forms.
Oh, and forms as well, yeah. Then, if you do these content type shenanigans, you also have to fix the queries, right? So we had this example with the education products, which was split up in 4 different content types. Well, obviously, you have to adjust the query there to include also 4 new content types. This is just one example. Also, field names changed, indexes changed, operators changed between these 2 versions. So this was also going on in there. And last but not least, well, we had to transform the time zones because, well, the dates were stored in Europe, Zurich time, in the old system, and Volto needed it to be in UTC in the new system. Good. Now's the time to hand over to Michael.
Thanks. So, let's see. Adrian built a very nice frame now already. Like when I got into this migration business, like most stuff was already working. Like you could visit the page, but it was empty. But all the data was already there. There were all the correct content types there. And so I actually thought I could do the fun part with migrating the blocks, or to the blocks actually. And as Adrian also already said, the method name isn't really correct, because in some ways it was more migrate stuff to blocks, because it wasn't only rich text that we did. So what this method did, and yeah, method, it was actually one separate file, which was also, even though not so much spaghetti code, but still a bit. What it did was get the tile and form data from the deferred import data, and of course the data that was now already in the new catalog. And then we did some specific processing depending on the content type. And there we really had like also lots of very specific logic, which is not complicated per se, but it's like, oh, okay, if it's a contact, we don't have a title block because contacts don't have titles, they have names. And for example, our news have a little block on top, which just says like the date and the institute where they're coming from. And otherwise, we could actually, otherwise we just had lots of converters. I made a screenshot here of our converters, and actually there we could make some, how's it called, like consolidations of things. Like for example, if you see it, like we converted like 3 or 4 different types we had before. We converted to what is it named actually? Convert Plone app standard tiles HTML. And this actually then called the block conversion tool. And yeah, we could do this for many of them. And another thing we could use many times was like our listing and teaser types, where we could also consolidate a little bit. And yeah, otherwise we just wrote own methods for like specific tiles. Like I think in the other presentation I mentioned we had some edubox block, and of course there we needed to fill in data, and this was just one method. And yeah, we just made, as you see, many methods for many different types. And now, one very good thing actually, but one little disclaimer. Yesterday I was in a presentation and I heard like the block conversion tool is out, and the collective HTML to blocks is the new kid on the block, which is a lot better. But we were still using the block conversion tool. And actually just what they said in the presentation yesterday, like the new one should be more customizable, etc. But the old one, like, I think it wasn't really built to do customized operations. And so what I did with that, I just forked the version and made additions to it. I also like put the GitHub link there, like to our version of the block conversion tool, if anybody is interested, but I think it's only for some very specific use cases we had. Like, for example, we had, in the old system, we had stuff like accordions and tabs built in TinyMC. And in the tabs, there were still things like tables and images and whatnot. And of course, with that, we needed to build blocks in blocks. And this wasn't really available in the blocks conversion tool. And so we needed to add some recursion or something there. We also needed to do quite some custom things with our images, because in our old system we had like image legends and stuff, and also different formats where they were. And yeah, we just converted this as well to Volto blocks. And we also had buttons, which is actually cool because not every old Plone system had buttons, but Volto has buttons, so that was easy more or less. With tables, we also had some special handling, but I think this was mostly about that by default the header was cut. Oh no, the header was not cut off, but yeah, just some specific handling of tables and their headers, and some special handlings for video and iframe blocks. Maybe one interesting fact is that we use this tool still every day, because we import some educational products from a system we use called Evento, maybe somebody knows, which creates or updates every day on our page like 700 pages, and there is some HTML stored, and so we generate out of this HTML the blocks. And actually I really like this block conversion tool because it was very fast. And it's still like very fast in some ways, because we created like 500,000 blocks in basically no time in compared to the other stuff of this import. The other thing I could take care of was the form migration, but actually David did there some great pre-work, I would say, right? You were doing that?
I hardly remember this place.
But yeah, like one difficulty there, like actually I didn't even write it down, but one difficulty there was that we tried to hit the moving target, as Rob was still doing the actual implementation, so I didn't really know what the end model in JSON would look like, how to store those things. But yeah, that's more of a project-related issue. Otherwise, actually, it wasn't so complicated. It was just a lot of fields and options. And how the XML in easy forms was saved was like terrible, because it was like XML in XML. And it was like some logic. Like I just remember that I had even a very hard time to just find the menu options of a drop-down. And of course, as the new form block doesn't have all the options of easy forms, we needed to do some like translation of the rules of easy form to the Volto form block. But yeah, this was more, I would say, business, also very business specific to us. But if you use easy form and have like, for example, 2 different mailers, one for the clients and one for the back office, like that's something it takes care of. Also, we invented some creative solutions, even though, yeah, maybe the example which I wrote down there is numeric, and then we make a numeric field isn't so creative. But like one thing I remember is that, funnily, because EasyForm allowed it, they also used Python code to validate fields. And mostly they used the same few things that we also had in our manual, like use this if you want specific inputs, or use that if you want to have like, yeah, that make it required or something, even though they had a button for that. Anywho, but we also translated some Python to just now, okay, this field is required, this is like the minimum length or whatever. And yeah, I would say we did well, because we didn't expect a 100% migration. I mean, that would have been crazy, but I think it worked out really quite well. We converted over 500 forms this way, and I think most of them worked like right out of the box. Yep. Back to Adrian.
Yeah, let's get to the images, which are now relations or single content items. We do relations to it. Well, I covered some topics already, but I just want to give the whole thing again. In the DigTalk, we just get the image data from the dictionary we have there, right? And then store it in this global dictionary where we have the path as a key. and the image data as value. So we know which page or which object had which image behind it, right? Then the heavy lifting happened in the finish method. Well, we obviously looked up the object by path because we are in the finish method. It is already there. Then we created the image object just underneath the object, or even we had this funny concept with the media folders. So every page had a page or a folder underneath it, which was called media, and in there were the images. So we stored the images, the preview images there. Obviously, for this we needed to generate an ID, create the object, and well, I think self-handle new object was something which came from collective.exportimport. And well, then we have created the object, and now we need to add the relation, right? One thing is, or how we did it was that we prepared relation data, mainly the UIDs with the source and the target, and I think the field is in there as well, and stored this in a global list. And this global list, we stored them in the end as an annotation on the portal. And here you see the code for storing the data support on the portal. And then we had the custom import relations. So this is basically the import relations view of collective export import. But we added this snippet here. So we just, at the beginning of it, we just loaded let's take this. The preview image relations from the annotations we stored before and added it to the data. Finish. So our presentation is slowly coming to an end. Let's talk about lessons learned here. Well, involve editors early. As I said, we involved them one time, more or less early, but on our fixes we actually didn't get any feedback. We were lucky enough that it was quite good, especially our fixes, but I would recommend doing it multiple times. Then also plan enough time for testing, code fixes, and especially content fixes. As the editors have to do some fixes themselves, they need enough time there. Yeah. Then the third point is, just during development, try to skip every object you don't need. This is something I learned quite in the beginning of developing the migration, but it speeds up development by a lot. Exactly. So one thing or two things I forgot to mention. Also, don't do a same as before migration. Basically, if you don't have the requirements ready. And second thing I wanted to mention regarding these two new kits on the blocks, collective transmute and collective HTML2 blocks. I think they didn't exist when we started with this.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
developed those
Yeah.
in the last couple of months. Yeah.
Exactly. So actually, we are at the end of our presentation.
This thing.
And also, if you ask Philip, they're wholly unnecessary. So.
All right, questions.
Hi, so we did something very similar, but we went to classic UI instead of Volto. Also not Mosaic, so that part was actually quite easy. Yeah. But now we're thinking about going to Volto, and one of the big migrations we might have to do then is from easy form as well. I think we have thousands of forms to that the form block. Is that code that you wrote about it somewhere available? Because I didn't see a link on the slides, or is that, yeah?
There was.
Is it in examples?
Is it in the examples, the form migration?
I think it is.
Okay.
When you go to, what is it? collective export import, well, to this repository and then go down the tree, and somewhere the cookie Plone failed, and the name is it's strange. Anyway, if you go to the correct path in the backend, you have the importing folder and the exporting folder, and in there, I think there should be the form conversion as well.
Okay, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Don't
If-
just ask us.
Yeah.
Or write an issue.
Write an issue.
All right, thank you. More questions? Yes.
I would like to know what time, what time altogether, how long did it take you? When did you start? When did you end? And how many developers?
Well, in the end, the migration itself, the pipeline basically, or just developing the whole thing?
Yeah, developing the whole thing.
Okay, well, we started in August 2024, and it was about half a year until February.
And it was mainly the two of you?
In
Let's
the
say till November mostly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I did jump in for the blogs and forms.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. More questions? All right. Thank you, guys.
No, again, one.
Wait. We have good time.
Thanks. So another one was, but what we were wondering is, do your users have a lot of problems with the total phase of interface, like from that they now have to work with Volto? Because that's also a big concern, because at a university, a lot of people are not technically inclined. So
I would recommend you watch our talk we had in the morning on YouTube, because this was one of the main topics why the old system wasn't very popular. And I think they like it now, right?
I think the answer is yes and no. Like, on the one hand, I think we have less, like, how's it called, like content management lessons or whatever, which they were giving before. Now we just have, but we still have some page where it's like tips and tricks for editors. Yeah. So I think in general it's really easier than the old one. But it's also because, like, in the old system we had like just more complicated customized stuff, while in the new one we tried to have it a bit more streamlined. So we tried to make it easier. And actually I would also recommend to look at that when you want to do a migration, like what can we do easier fitting with Volto's new editing interface.
Okay.
But yeah,
Thank you.
More or less.
Yes.
So, did you like this project? Did you like doing it?
The migration or the whole thing?
The whole migration project, all the work this last year and also this year.
Oh.
It's actually it's a nasty question, because I really loved this project last year, because I don't know at the beginning, I had to come in later. But I think I worked for almost 2 days in total on this project. Because I had done a similar migration of this the year before, and FHNW asked it Concept, hey, can you help with this migration and things? And I met with Adrian 10 times or something. Adrian, what did we do on Friday afternoons? And the only thing I did in this project was just showing Adrian what I had done before, because all the difficult things that I found and they had to solve, I had like mini versions of those with a few previous upgrade projects, and I knew very well where everything was happening in collective export import. So we talked through things, and I just gave them guys, hey, this is probably over there. We said this, but you have to do it. And they ran away with it. This is one of the most beautiful projects. Fun projects for me, because I could just see and just give them a little bit of guidance. They ran away with it. And I want to give them a really big compliment for how it worked out. And the second big compliment is for this package, because we talked about it later. I said, look, you have so much knowledge gained there in this project with the really esoteric things that I don't know in the community that was not shared yet. And I just now found out. You say, where's this code? Well, it's there. If you have to migrate Mosaic stuff, check what these gentlemen did, because we have examples now. And this is one of the really more complex sites that we have, that we was very successfully with all the problems, because no migration project really is fun. For me, it was relatively fun because I didn't have to do the work this time. I could just say, okay, look, this is what I've all seen in the last 2-3 years. Beware, 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 dragons, this code. Oh, this is really difficult. Please ask David. I have no clue. Please ask Rob Gietema. I don't know. So for me, this was fun. But yeah, again, hats off. Really, really, really cool. And like I said, the examples are there now also for others to improve further upon this. Really well done.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for the flowers. Well, actually, you asked a question and we didn't respond yet.
I would say yes and no.
It depends.
Yeah. Sometimes it was really fun.
You can now become a consultant.
Yeah.
When you saw it come alive, it was cool. But then,
Yeah, before it's scary. It's total scary.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the process there wasn't always perfect. But yeah.
Let me respond as well.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot because I learned so many things just by talking with you, looking at the code, looking at my code, but also the Plone code, and I really liked that. What I didn't like was in the end, you started it with the whole database. Already this purging was done and so on. Still, it ran for some hours. You saw it in the end, it was still 8 hours or something.
Yeah.
This wasn't that fun because you started it and, you waited and waited and waited.
Yes.
One more?
I can stop working. So ask.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Just on the topic of how long it takes to run the migration, did you consider doing a separate transform step in between the export and the load? Because I did one that I approached that way, and then you're just dealing with Python data structures. You're not dealing with the database, and it was fast to iterate on all the transforming one thing into another.
Well,
Good idea.
yeah.
Actually, it's more of a comment than a question. But
we considered it.
It's worth considering for somebody else tackling a similar project.
And just because we can, we said, just skip this. We wanted to have it directly in the PostgreSQL database. And in the end, I could have listed it on the lessons learned because doing it, as I said, we had all these custom implementations of the import views of export import, but it was not necessary. And some of these import views were quite difficult to have to implement the batching we needed. Yeah. So yeah, we did consider it, didn't take it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. Let's have a coffee and continue with lightning talks. More talk. Thank you.